The Indian government has approved a draft of the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, which requires consent before collecting personal data and imposes penalties for data breaches. The bill is expected to be presented in the upcoming session of the Parliament, while the contents of the bill will remain confidential until it is brought in the Parliament. Hello and welcome to VARINDIA News Hour. Nearly 6 years after the Supreme Court held privacy to be a fundamental right, the centre has made a second attempt at framing legislation for protection of data. The Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2022, a draft of which was floated in November, is expected to be tabled in the Parliament's Monsoon session that begins on July 20th. The bill is crucial because, irrespective of our levels of digital literacy or comfort with digital technologies, digitalisation and data will inevitably and increasingly impact vital aspects of our public and private lives. But the question is, does the draft bill adequately address the still extant public concerns that led to the unanimous privacy judgment by a 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court almost 6 years back? Legal experts say, surprisingly, there are as yet no standards for either of these tests. Hence, the measures of post-violation complaints and penalties of the type envisaged in the last draft of the bill are not adequate for protection and mitigation. Protection from indirect harms needs to be ex ante rather than ex post, and data fiduciaries and data controllers need to have exacting standards for ex ante privacy protection and purpose limitation. Secondly, there are certain challenges over this draft bill live. Problematic aspect of the draft bill appears to be its over-dependence on consent. Apart from unreasonably putting the onus on unsuspecting individuals to correctly recognize all privacy risks entailed in complicated digital applications, consent also often presents a false choice. Denying consent is pervasive. Applications may unreasonably limit options, cause hardships or put barriers to freedom of expression. Hence, effective data protection requires an accountability-based rather than a consent-based framework which puts the onus on the data controllers and fiduciaries irrespective of the level of consent rather than on individuals. This is not so to say that consent is not required, but that one cannot hide behind consent for privacy protection. Also, the correct section on deemed consent seems to grant dangerous powers to the state or even employers. The clauses of deemed consent under in public interest or for provision of any service or benefit to the data principle by the state or any instrumentality of the state appears to be unacceptably empowering. The draft bill was also completely silent about the standards of anonymization, encryption, and access control. These are not merely technical and operational issues, but crucial considerations for digitalization and data, without which any data protection discourse is woefully incomplete. In summary, the current draft bill falls short of expectations in many respects. Most significantly, it bears testimony to a mindset of technocrats and the executive to somehow bypass the objections and concerns. Let's look into today's headlines. Fibre grid. The Minister of Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnaw, said that India is planning to invest an additional $13 billion in establishing an optical fibre grid across the nation to boost connectivity and provide affordable internet to all. The government has already invested $8.3 billion in this project, bringing the total to well over rupees 1 lakh crores. Government announces extension of application deadline for PLI scheme for IT hardware. The government has extended the application deadline for the second phase of the PLI scheme for IT hardware till July 31st. The government approved a budgetary outlay of rupees 17,000 crore for the scheme in May. The scheme is expected to generate an incremental production worth rupees 3.35 lakh crore over a period of 6 years. Meta launches commercial version of its AI model. Meta is launching a commercial version of its AI model, Llama, that is LLAMA, to compete with OpenAI and Google. Earlier this year, the company launched Llama for researchers and those working in academia. The new commercial version will allow startups and businesses to build custom software on top of the technology while also improve the open source AI model. Government asks OTT platforms to review their content independently for obscenity. The Indian government has reportedly asked Netflix, Disney and other online streaming platforms that their content needs to be reviewed independently for obscenity and violence before being shown online. The proposal was delivered OTT platforms during a meeting on June 20th at the Information and Broadcasting Ministry. However, the OTT platforms objected to the proposal and no final decision was taken. Asus confirms thermal issue with its newly launched Ally handheld. The recently launched Asus Windows-powered Ally handheld gaming console globally has some thermal issues and it is breaking the micro SD card for some users. Asus has now officially confirmed the thermal issue with handheld while also revealing that it is working on a fix and the issue will be addressed. That's all for now. Please like, share, comment and subscribe to VARINDIA News Magazine. You can download the VARINDIA app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store for more news and updates. Stay tuned. Thank you.